So, this is the second lecture in the series of lectures on statistics for sociologists. In the previous lecture, I introduced the topic and said what are various things that we are going to cover in this course. Now, the second lecture is devoted to measurements and scales, because before we use quantitative methods or statistical methods, we have to measure our variables properly. So, in sociology, as you are aware, we use two different methodologies, qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative methodology deals with subjective meanings, interests, perspectives, interactions, and uses a constructivist position, which does not require measurements or statistical data. In quantitative methodology, on the other hand, the aim is to discover facts, patterns, regularities by using objective methods and value neutrality or scientific method, which requires construction of reliable and valid scales and measurements. Statistical applications need measurements, and what measurement means? Assigning numbers. Measuring something means assigning number. And to what you assign numbers? In sociology, you assign numbers to individuals, mean respondents, subjects, sometimes groups, sometimes communities, sometimes even nation. And you also assign numbers to conditions, situations, environment. Anything which is to be studied by using quantitative methods requires numbering, and these numbers must follow some obvious rules. Researchers aim to find out facts about diverse social phenomena and discover laws of human behavior. This is what the aim of so-called positivist philosophy in sociology is, that we are studying facts, we are studying them objectively, we are studying them dispassionately without involving researchers' bias, and to collect facts it is necessary to have measurements of variables comprising the phenomena. Imagine that you want to study relationship between urbanization and crime rate. So, you need to assign some numbers to urbanization, so that you can say that this number means high level of urbanization or high degree of urbanization or higher size of population of the city or town, and this number means low. And you also have to assign some number to crime rate. Rates may be measured in terms of, say, number of crimes divided by average population and expressed in percentage form or per thousand form, etc. And then a mathematical or statistical empirical relationship has to be built between crime rate as a dependent variable and urbanization as an independent variable. So, you need numbers. Imagine if scientific discoveries were possible without the help of numbers and mathematics. Right from the beginning, sociologists wanted to use scientific method. Some sociologists, at least, like Emile Durkheim or Comte, or all those sociologists, even Bourdieu has used empirical methods in studies of education and capital. So, when you make a quantitative positivistic study of something, you need numbers, as in sciences. Science would not have been possible if numbers were not discovered or variables were not measured. If, say, velocity, time, distance, etc. were not measured properly, do you think that it was possible for Newton to give his laws of motion? No, it would not be possible. Objective laws have been discovered in sciences largely because scientists were able to study their phenomena quantitatively. They could measure them properly, they could measure time, speed or velocity or acceleration or weight or mass or attraction, force and momentum in terms of numbers which follow rules of mathematics. So, we also, if we want to use quantitative methods, we also need numbers. Positivistic methodology also needs measurements to conduct surveys. Today, the nature of surveys has changed dramatically. Earlier, we used to think that say 50 years, 100 years ago, somebody would conduct a survey of the migration. So, the expectation was that the researcher will be carrying a questionnaire or an interview schedule, maybe running into 5 or 10 pages and collecting data on socio-economic variables and migration. Today, we are conducting large scale survey. Largeness is one property of many modern surveys. There are surveys, NFHS survey, World Health Survey, World Fertility Survey, in which thousands and lakhs of people are interviewed, and they not only contain socio-economic and other substantive issues, they also contain quite often biometric data, and that involves say pathological test, blood test. You want to test HIV, prevalence of HIV. So, you take samples of bloods. That requires a very different art than the surveys of the yesteryears required. And these measurements concern the real world. Real world is real. You make an attempt to measure or to study the real world, but real world is real, means it is more than what you actually measure. I remember that Max Weber gave the concept of ideal types, and he said that ideal types are sociologists' concepts to study real world phenomenon. Now, real world phenomenon is real world phenomenon. We make an attempt to comprehend the real world by using our ideal types, but it is not possible to maintain that real world is as our concepts imply. So, mathematics is a formal science of numbers that the positivists in sociology apply. If you call social sciences sciences, then they are unthinkable without use of numbers or measurements. I am asking you a question, can sociologists work if they decide not to use number of men and women, literates, illiterates, size of population, composition of population according to religion and caste, two issues of great controversy in our country, urban and rural population, crime rates and number of various crimes, income and development, a big debate in economics literature, inequality in income and assets. And can we not say that mathematical sociology today has become a legitimate branch of sociology? There are so many academic journals devoted to mathematical sociology, which publish papers based on application of very sophisticated mathematics, including differential and integral calculus and differential equations to measurements of variables pertaining to real world. Now, everything is not so easy to measure. Certain things are easy to measure, like number of men and women, you simply have to count them. Age is easily understood, though in practice in field work we find that even age can be misunderstood, hours of work, etc. But sociologists often work with abstract concepts like love, religiosity. We can say that number of persons attending temples or church or mosque is increasing or decreasing. But suppose you want to say something about whether religiosity or religiousness is on rise or fall, rise or decline, or coping. coping strategies, healing, attitudes in favor of something or against something, and knowledge, content of knowledge, then measurements of these variables would be difficult. Sociologists and psychologists have, however, shown a way, though their measurements are nowhere near perfection, and we are constantly improving upon that. There are 5 properties of numbers which relate to what I am going to say about scales. One, uniqueness, each number is unique, 4 is 4, 5 is 5, 5 cannot be 4, 4 cannot be 3. Each number is larger or smaller than others. So, 13 is larger than 11, 11 is lesser than 13. Numbers are equally spaced in the number series. The gap between 4 and 6 is same as the gap between 10 and 12. There are arithmetical operations which can be used to numbers. Plus means numbers can be added, minus numbers can be subtracted, numbers can be multiplied, which is shown by star or multiplication sign, and numbers can be divided by other numbers. The number series starts with a natural 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, natural numbers, they are called 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, rational number. Let us begin with variables. Variables vary, the term variable in sociology is used for a characteristic which varies from person to person. Characteristics vary from one unit to another. This sometimes the person may be group, region or context. Characteristics may be measured in the form of scalar numbers, which means in terms of unitary variables, in terms of one thing. So, gender, male or female, this is a scalar number. You can write 1 for males, 2 for females. So, this is a scalar number. Sometimes we measure a multiple or several things simultaneously, multiple things simultaneously, several things. And so, for each respondent, we are going to measure this more or less the same thing or exactly the same thing in terms of different items or measurements. Then you have vectors. There are also sometimes matrices or arrangement of data into rows and columns, multiple measurements with multiple dimensions. Social phenomena have several dimensions and you may like to measure them by using a number of measurements, each of them in terms of a number of measurements. There are 4 types of measurements. Any basic textbook of research methodology or statistics will show that there are 4 types of measurements. First is nominal, second ordinal, third interval and fourth ratio. And selection of scale, whether you go for nominal or ordinal or interval or ratio, depends on the purpose of the study and nature of variables. Nominal variables are measured in terms of yes or no, possibly do not know, or 2 or more categories. You are measuring somebody's religious identity, whether he is Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Jain or Parsi, by assigning numbers to each. This is nominal scale. You are only, by using nominal scale, you are only able to categorize people into different categories. Examples: religion. So, a person is either Hindu or a Muslim. State to which you belong, migration status. Are you an in-migrant or out-migrant or native? To which caste do you belong? Are you a color blind? Color blind answer may be yes, no, or occupation. What is your occupation? You may be a clerk, you may be a farmer, you may be a manual laborer, whatever. So, these are examples of nominal variables, nominal scales. So, religion, state, migration status, caste, color blindness, occupation, they are measured by using nominal scales in this sense. Whether whether somebody went for sex determination test or did not go for sex determination test, yes, no. Non-response may be another category, 1 to 9 or 1 to 3. Ever enrolled in school or never enrolled. There are categories. So, you can find how many people or who are the people who were ever enrolled in school and who are the people, who are the children who are never enrolled in any school. Now, in case of nominal scale, certain things can be done, transformation can be done. It is possible to do frequency analysis only, however. Means you can say that number of men is this, number of women is this, or you can say that percentage of men is this, percentage of women is this. In case of a number of categories more than 2, you can also think of mode, calculating mode, which is the most dominant or most frequent category, and you can make univariate and bivariate tables. And I think all of you must have heard about chi-square test. Chi-square test of statistics can be applied to data on nominal scale also. Why I am saying so? I want to say that all types of statistical methods cannot be applied to all types of measurements. In case of nominal data, for example, arithmetic mean cannot be calculated. It will carry no meaning. Your telephone numbers are your measurements on a kind of nominal scale. If I say that average or arithmetic mean of telephone numbers of people belonging to this category or this community or this area is this, does it mean anything? Nothing. You can't compare arithmetic mean of telephone numbers in one area with another area. This will not convey anything, although you have a number, you have a measurement, but this measurement is of no use in comparing things. Another scale is ordinal or ranking. Here you not only assign a unique number to respondents or groups or communities, but the objects stand in some relationship which is monotonically increasing. So, that means you can say that value possessed by certain individuals with regard to something is higher or lower than something else, ranking, hierarchy, rating, orders. You can arrange people or respondents or communities or categories or nations in certain order if you have an ordinal or ranking variable. You can arrange people in terms of level of education. Level of education would be a variable, educational variable measured on ordinal scale. You can say that a postgraduate is more educated than a graduate is more educated than 10 plus 2, 10 plus 2 is more educated than illiterate. But it is also not a very good scale to measure education. Maybe years of schooling, as we will see, years of schooling is a better scale that satisfies the properties of higher order scales like interval and ratio. You can rank regions on the basis of infant mortality rate and literacy, but it does not tell you anything more than the ranking. It does not tell you much about infant mortality. You cannot use such data, ranking data, for advanced statistical purposes. You can't use, say, distribution theory for ranking variables. Examples of ordinal scale are level of education, socioeconomic status, which can be arranged in hierarchical order, household amenities, which households have more amenities or less amenities, occupation, if you are constructing occupational scale for producing, for unearthing occupational hierarchy in a society, and linking it with something else. So, you can talk of ordinal scale of occupation, higher or lower. Urban classification is class of city, metropolitan class 1 city. If I simply write for different cities, whether they are metropolitan or class 1 or large size town or middle size town or small town, without writing their exact size of population, then I am using an ordinal scale, because metropolitan is bigger than class 1 city, class 1 is bigger than large size town is bigger than middle size town, and middle size town is bigger than a small town. In such cases, when our data are on ordinal scale, we can calculate the median, we can calculate percentiles, and we can calculate rank order correlation and use non-parametric statistics. This is a different branch of statistical application, non-parametric, in which we work with small data, sometimes unreliable data, and sometimes data which have been assumed to have come from population for which exact theoretical probability distribution is not known. Now, coming to interval scale data, as ordinal is superior to nominal, it is interval scale is superior to ordinal scale. Interval scale is the first truly quantitative scale. Why truly quantitative scale? Because most statistical applications or more of mathematical work can be done if your data are produced by using interval scales. Now, here values measured are not only rank ordered, high, low. See, the conditions which are satisfied by ordinal scales are not all satisfied by nominal scales, but the conditions which are satisfied by nominal scale are satisfied by ordinals. Now, likewise, the properties of ordinality apply to data on interval scale, but interval scale gives you something else also additional. That additional thing is that the difference between two numbers becomes a meaningful difference. So, adjacent values are equidistant, that is the unique property of interval scale as compared to nominal and ordinal. The differences between two numbers are meaningful. Examples of interval scale: age. If you measure age in completed years, then you are measuring age on interval scale. Everybody has a unique age. In that sense, age can be seen as a category of respondents, or you can express age data in the form of frequency data. You can make intervals of age 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15 and calculate frequencies. Interval data also satisfy the requirements of ordinal. You can always say that somebody who is 50 years of age is senior than somebody of age 30 years. 30 years is senior to somebody of age 10. Likewise, intelligence quotient IQ, which is commonly measured in psychology for examining differences in intelligence among the various subjects for some purpose. Intelligence quotient is an example of interval scale. Here numbers are meaningful, their comparisons are meaningful in the sense of higher and lower, and the differences, you can say that the difference in IQ of two persons having IQ score of 104 and 106 is exactly same as the difference in IQ of two persons having IQ of 96 and 98. Similarly, temperature in Fahrenheit, centigrade, they can be converted to each other also by using the formula F equal to 32 plus 9 by 5 C. Years of schooling, how many years you have spent in school, that is interval scale. Here, while I said that the difference between postgraduate and graduate is not same as the difference between say 10 plus 2 and illiterate, but the difference in years of schooling of those who have spent 13 and 16 years in schools or universities is same as the difference between those who have spent say 4 and 7 years in schools. Time can also be called to be a variable measured on interval scale. We can calculate mean, we can calculate variance, means more statistical applications are possible. We can calculate range, we can calculate correlations, we can apply ANOVA and all common parametric statistics. Actually, there are some social scientists who are of the view that all statistical measurements, all statistical techniques, tools, all advanced statistical methods can be applied to variables which are measured on interval scale, though the best scale or ideal scale or the scale to which all advanced statistical techniques must be applied is the ratio scale. Why is temperature scale interval? You see, here I have made a small table which shows temperatures in centigrades and Fahrenheit. There are so different ways of measuring or different scales of measuring temperature, but they can be converted by using that old formula I mentioned just now, F equal to something plus something C. If you measure something in centigrade, minus 50 will imply minus 58 of Fahrenheit. 0 of centigrade will be 32 of Fahrenheit, 50 degrees centigrade will be 122 Fahrenheit and 100 will be 212. The freezing occurs on Celsius scale at 0 and boiling occurs at 100. On the Fahrenheit scale, freezing occurs at 32 and boiling at 212. So, values are different, but they can be converted from one scale to another. And notice that the ratios of the similar differences on one scale are equal to ratios of the similar differences on the other scale. That is, the ratios of intervals are independent of units of measurement of temperature. Same thing applies to IQ and age, etc. Now, ratio scale have something more interesting. Ratio scales have all the properties of nominal scale, ordinal scale and interval scale. And in ratio scale, you cannot have a negative value. This is a scale which has a true 0. So, you may ask, why is temperature not measured on ratio scale? We talk of 0 degree centigrade, but yes, this is 0 in centigrade only, not in Fahrenheit. You change the scale and your number will change. Also, there is no real 0, what you call 0 on one scale may be something else on other scales, it will not be 0. 0 temperature is not the absence of temperature, it is a measurement. 0 means 0 on a certain scale. Absolute temperature, if one is dealing with, will not be 0, then it will be 0 plus something in sciences, in physics, 0 plus something, and that plus something will make it a non-zero number. This is true that ratio scales on which 0 implies absence of something. So, you can also see that some scales, IQ for example, we wrote IQ is interval scale. Why? Because there is nothing like 0 IQ. We do not think of a person having 0 IQ in the sense that he has no mind at all. We can use all operations on ratio scale. Now, guess the scale of the following: age. What is age? Number of children, marital status, caste, literacy, proximate literacy or categories of people, whether husband and wife both are educated, one of them is educated, both are uneducated, etc., which is quite often used in studies of fertility and family planning. Examples of ratio scales are weight. Weight can have real 0, mass, income, 0 income is possible, not earning at all, pressure, 0 pressure, number of children can be 0, and the ratios are independent of the units of measurements, and therefore, something like coefficient of variation. When we will study dispersion, we will look into this measure of dispersion more. Coefficient of variation, which is defined as 100 times standard deviation of a variable divided by arithmetic mean, can also be computed. You see, in nominal and ordinal and interval scales, ratios do not always make sense. Ratios do not make sense generally, but in variables measured on ratio scale, you can calculate ratios also, and this SD divided by M makes for building a measure of dispersion which is free from the unit of measurement. SD will have the same dimension, same unit of measurement as mean, but SD divided by M becomes free from the unit of measurement. The common types of scales, I also want to talk a little bit about the types of scales that we use in sociology. The common types of scales, most commonly they are single item scales, years of schooling, age in completed years, or ranks and ratings. Rank the 5 largest cities of India in terms of cleanliness. This will give you data on cities and their ranks in cleanliness, or rate each of the following cities in terms of cleanliness. Assign 1 to most dirty city and 5 to cleanest city, and you can be asked to rate a number of cities. Some will have a value 1, some will have 5, but most of them will have values between 1 and 5. You will say, I would like to put a particular city at 2 or 2.5 or 3 or 4. It is closer to 1 or closer to 5. The best or the most commonly used scale in sociology is called the Likert type or Likert scale. Likert scales consist of a number of items which are measured on ordinal scale, in which there are several items in the form of statements. I will show you an example of Likert scale. The usual response categories are strongly agree, agree, don't know or neutral, disagree and strongly agree, etc. Then you assign numbers to all these things. Strongly agree may be called 1, strongly disagree may be called 5, and you can later on add all the numbers obtained against all the items. This sum of numbers attached to different items or sum of measurements by using different items will be one unitary value of the variable that we are trying to measure in terms of a number of items. Such measures, however, must pass the test of reliability and validity. Today we are not going to talk about reliability and validity. In the next lecture, we will talk about this issue. Now, items may vary in importance, and one may like to therefore know discriminating power of different items. You see, for computing differentiating power, either you can use a set of judges and ask them to measure something, a set of Likert items, and see which are the items with regard to which they differ and which are the items to which they give more or less the same measurements, same values. The items with the highest discriminating power are selected for inclusion in the final survey. I give you this example of a Likert scale. One of my PhD students was studying environmental consciousness. So, first he made a detailed study of scales used in the past for measuring environmental consciousness, and finally he developed a scale with a number of items. Let me read some items. Second item, humans have the right to modify the natural environment to suit their needs. The answers are from strongly disagree to strongly agree. Strongly disagree is given number 1, disagree 2, neutral 3, agree 4, strongly agree 5. So, if the value of that number is high, that means according to respondent, humans have the right to modify the natural environment to suit their needs, and this shows a lack of environmental consciousness. If the number is 5, then it means least consciousness. If the number is 1, it means highest consciousness. Similarly with other items, let me read 1 or 2 other items. When humans interfere with nature, it often leads to disastrous consequences. This also measures environmental consciousness. Humans are severely abusing the environment. So, like this, for measuring environmental consciousness or beliefs, we may use a number of items. Here we have 15 items. These 15 items can be used to measure environmental consciousness. Now, one thing I would say here that sometimes we form our questions in such a manner that some items, strong agreement with some item would show one thing, and strong agreement with another item will show the reverse of that. For example, here 12th and 13th, humans were meant to rule over the rest of the nature. Suppose somebody says strongly agree, humans were meant to rule over the rest of the nature, strongly agree. So, this strongly agree shows a lack of environmental consciousness. This is a kind of anthropomorphism or human centeredness in terms of consciousness of the person. 13th is the balance of nature is very delicate and easily upset. If the respondent is saying that the balance of nature is very delicate and easily upset, it measures presence of environmental consciousness. So, 5 of 12 is not same thing as 5 of 13, and therefore, there are some questions on which agreement shows a high environmental consciousness and some on which agreement shows a lack of it, lack of environmental consciousness. We arrange them randomly. The reason is that some people have a tendency to answer all your questions in certain direction. Maybe somebody has a tendency to say strongly agree or agree, but if we have questions put up in different forms with different directionalities and take care of their directionality at the time we add values of different items, then that scale would be better. Before adding the item scores, their codes must be reversed. So, strongly agree of one item can be strongly disagree of the other items. So, 1 is converted to 5, 5 is converted to 1, 2 is converted to 4, 4 is converted to 2, like that. There is also a semantic differential scale, not much used in sociology. I am mentioning this only for in theoretical reasons, that yes, in literature there are also some semantic differential scale. Semantic means difference of meaning. So, you are measuring something whether it is good or bad, and make categories very much, somewhat, neither, somewhat, very much, beautiful, true. For the same thing you are asking whether it is good or bad, beautiful or ugly, true or false, and then by adding numbers against good, beautiful, maybe somebody thinks that somebody is good very much, and very much is assigned number 1, and in category of beautiful somebody thinks neither beautiful nor ugly. So, you can assign number 3, 1 plus 3, then 4 is the measure, 1 plus 3, 4 becomes the measure of your measured variable. Like this you can make 4 or more categories also, good, beautiful, true, and something else, honesty, honest, dishonest, like that, and add the values against each thing. There is also a Gutman scale. Observe the nature of questions. Do you mind a PLHA, people living with HIV and AIDS, as living in your city? Do you mind a PLHA as your co-worker? Do you mind a PLHA as your neighbor? Do you mind a PLHA as your relative? Obviously, these questions are formed in such a manner that if you accept somebody as your relative, obviously you will accept him or her as your neighbor also, as co-worker also, as your city dweller also. If you accept somebody as neighbor, then it means that you will also accept that person as co-worker. So, the second category includes first, third category includes first and second, fourth category includes first, second and third. And now, by asking these 4 questions to a person, or maybe 5 or 6 or 7, then the next question, do you mind a PLHA as your relative? The next question may be that do you mind a PLHA as your spouse? Relatives can be various types of, there can be many types of relatives, but whether close intimacy is acceptable to you or not, the next question can be, do you mind a PLHA as your spouse? Obviously, if somebody accepts somebody as a spouse, he or she will also accept them as relative, neighbor, co-worker and city dweller. And then these different items can be assigned different weights. One simple thing would be that you assign weights 1, 2, 3, 4, but you can assign other weights also and take the weighted average or weighted sum of these items, that is Gutman scale. Now, remember, before using any scale, check whether they suffer from social desirability, check their reliability. The next lecture will be on reliability and validity. Reliability means reproducibility, whether in the same condition, same respondents will produce the same answer in resurvey. You can do a survey and then resurvey. If to same item they are giving same response in survey and resurvey, then we can say that the item is reliable. If they are saying something else in one survey and saying something else in different second survey, third round of survey, then it means the question is not, the item is not reliable. Also check their validity or truth content. Certain things can be reliable, but they may have no validity. When you ask somebody, how are you? The answer is, I am fine. And most people most of the time say, I am fine, but is it valid? Are people all the time, all people all the time happy? And it is because of that that they are saying, I am fine, or it is simply a politeness behavior. So, it is not, this kind of answer is not valid, though it is reliable. Check the undecided category. Preference for undecided category can be controlled better by avoiding it. Check sensitivity, specificity. Sensitivity means those who possess a particular attribute show it. Specificity would mean that those who lack a particular attribute do not show it. So, if you know that poverty is measured in terms of poverty ratio and poverty line, if you raise poverty line, then those who possess a particular attribute may not all be shown as poor. So, sensitivity will decline, but those who lack a particular attribute will not show it. So, specificity may not be affected in that sense. Now, scaling is not fixed. There is a continuous improvement in measuring different things in social sciences, in all domains, in all fields, in all areas. Better and better scales are being developed by researchers, and before you start your research, you must be familiar with how your variables have been measured in the past. It is a process. New researchers learn from the old researchers and improve scales and measures. If somebody studies, or another student of mine studies environmental consciousness today, I will tell him that you go through the existing scales, including scale of Pradeep, whose scale I showed to you, and make a better scale than that. But you can make a better scale by changing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can make it 7 point, 9 point, 100 point. You can increase the number of items or decrease number of items. You can change the wordings, you can change the order, and better scales are always possible. Sometimes the same thing like migration is measured by asking different questions, and new question is considered to be perfect. In practice, all statistical tools are used for interval data. Remember, you must aspire for interval scale at least, if not ratio scale. And when you take up a research, first look at the existing measures, improvise them, and test their reliability and validity. Friends, now it is time to summarize what I have said in this lecture on scaling. First, I have said that if you are using quantitative methodology, you want to be objective, value neutral, dispassionate, and use scientific laws. You use scientific or mathematical relationships, algebraic relationships, calculus, then you have to measure your variables with such a great precision as the scientists, physicists, chemists or others or mathematicians measure their variables. It may not be possible in social sciences always, but you must aspire to do that. Now, there are some guidelines for social scientists, sociologists, that scales are broadly divided into 4 categories: nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. Ratio scale is considered to be the best scale. If you have data on ratio scale, then all statistical techniques can be applied. But if you have data on nominal scale, which is the weakest scale, then you can do only frequency analysis, or if you make bivariate tables or multivariate tables, then you can use chi-square. Chi-square for testing association or for study of strength of association between 2 attributes or polytomies. Interval scale can be developed, and one way of developing interval scale is to go for Likert scale, and I have shown you one example of Likert scale which was used by my PhD student Pradeep Swarnkar in study of environmental consciousness. For measuring environmental consciousness, a number of items were selected. Each of these items were to be asked to respondents who would say whether they strongly agree, disagree, or simply agree or disagree, or they are neutral to that. Strongly disagree is given 1, then disagree is given 2, neutral 3, agree 4, strongly agree 5. Before adding the numbers against different items, we have to reverse code some items which express the study property in a reverse order. Although individual items of Likert scale have been measured on ordinal scale, but when you add different numbers referring to different aspects or dimensions of environmental consciousness or other things which we are studying, then it becomes, or it is treated as a scale on interval scale. Now, everything can be done. Ideally speaking, certain techniques involving ratios etc. cannot be applied to data on interval scales, but for practical purposes everything is done. Ideally, your scale should be of the nature of ratio scale, and the difference between ratio scale and interval scale is that ratio scales have a real 0, like mass or weight. Weight has a real 0, temperature does not have a real 0. What you call 0 on one scale can be called something else, it can be 273 on another scale. And after building a scale, look for its reliability, validity, conduct a pilot study. Before applying to main study, you must conduct a pilot study and check whether the scale is working, whether people are able to understand your items, your statements, whether their meanings are not distorted, and whether there are some items which discriminate between respondents. There may be some items, all the respondents give the same numbers, say 3, neutral. Such items are of no use. You better discard these items before finalizing your questionnaire. So, we also make a study of discriminating power of different items or statements, which can be done on respondents in a pilot study or which can be done on certain experts, and this is how a scale is developed for final study. It is important to study reliability and validity of scales. No scale is perfect, its developing a scale is a continuous process. It is also a part, it is also a science as well as an art, and is part of the research process. You cannot simply take a scale developed to measure something in western context and use that in India. Maybe change of cultural context will also require change in the items or wordings or order of different items and so on. So, do that, and then only you can think of collecting data and applying statistical techniques to draw inferences. Thank you.